Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josephine Watson, and I'm the Commercial Projects Editor at IGB, so I'll be chairing today's IGB webinar. We're delighted to be hosting a webinar with Digitain today, where we're going to be asking a crucial question under current circumstances. Are you ready to go online? Failure to take brands online could lead to a loss of revenue and customers to online existing brands that can provide uninterrupted access. E-commerce can have many unknowns to a new operator, such as costs, licensing, technology, and digital marketing. Today, we're joined by Peter Nolan, Simon Westbury, Edmund Goulian, Haik Sarkisian, and I'll let them introduce themselves pretty shortly. I'm so sorry if I butchered any names there. There'll be a Q&A following the presentation, so please do submit questions as we go along, and I'll try to address as many of them as possible in the allocated time. With that, we're going to be passing over to our moderator for today, Peter. So Peter, take it away.
Hi, thanks very much, Josie. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Digitain webinar. I'm joined today with my Edmund, Haik, and Simon. Edmund looks after our sportsbook, Haik, poker, and our skill games, and Simon is our head of sales. So, thanks for the introduction, which sort of covers what we want to try and cover today about the importance of, or the opportunity of going online. First of all, I suppose we want to talk about the challenges and risks of going digital. It could be a bit scary for some people if they're not used to it, or haven't done it before. But I think one of the first things we need to talk about is strategy. Simon, do you have a view how important strategy is when you're setting up or starting off in an online business?
Yeah, I mean, Peter, I think strategy is everything. You know, what I'd say to anyone looking to start an online business is don't fall for the industry buzzwords, don't fall for the razzmatazz, and you know, we all have a desire to maybe have those nice, expensive, shiny things in life. But I think, you know, when you're starting a project, you need to define what your USP is, what your target market is, and find a technology or platform provider, or decide to build your own platform based on your own opinion. You know, we can all aspire to work with tier 1 suppliers and become tier 1 operators, but I think in terms of strategy, you have to be very clear in what you want to achieve. I think, as Edmund will know, from what I have told him before, every time we get a sales inquiry, the most famous request we're making is, can we have the Bet365 looking website? Because people haven't identified that, you know, with Bet365, there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the website, and that green and grey and yellow website isn't going to bring you the magic. And I think Edmund's going to talk a little bit more, because he's far more educated on these matters than me about risk management for sportsbook. You know, we've got Haik to look at casino and poker games. There's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration, and we shouldn't just be coming to look at industry buzzwords. And I always give the example of ICE a couple of years ago, where someone hurriedly painted on their stand that Bitcoin payment was what they did. They didn't know what Bitcoin payment was, because I asked them, but they said, well, that's what everyone's talking about. And I think you have to define your strategy very clearly, and that may be stating the obvious, but the amount of times I've seen people get involved and have buyer regret, and I'm not going to say that's happening in certain markets now, but there needs to be flexibility in your technology provider, but at the same time, it has to work for you. And going with a tier 1 operator might not be, a supplier might not be the case, but that might not work for you.
Yeah, I think often people have to decide between build it or license it, and building it sounds attractive. I think owning your own technology is attractive, but it can be expensive and a long process. Licensing is important, I think, as a way of getting to market quickly. But you can also then have to choose your platform supplier very carefully. Part of strategy, I suppose, from my perspective, I think you need to know where you're going. You need to know what you want to achieve, where you want to compete, where you don't want to compete, what your positioning will be, who you're going to compete against or not compete against, and what will be your point of differentiation. I think it's important to get all these things clear, at least in your mind, and have a business plan before you go on the journey to choose your supplier, because it should inform everything about your product and marketing strategy as well. Going on to product, Edmund, Well, how important is, when you're choosing to online, is the product range and the platform, do you feel?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Actually, just going back, yes, going online in terms of the products, I think the product range and the product portfolio in general is very, very important because it's a different platform, it's a different environment when you go online. And you know, because of this convenience of being online, customers have many different types of preferences. And it's not just meeting those preferences, it's exceeding those preferences and delivering something that is of value to them. And as Simon said, you know, if you're trying to find value as a provider or as an operator, that really means that you have to come up with something unique, or at least you have to have this flexibility of offering something to the operators. So that comes down to, you know, your product portfolio. We talked about the strategy. That comes down to your product strategy, or as we call in product management, that's your product roadmap. So you have to have this you know, stability and also predictability, what is coming next, especially in times of, you know, right now we're going through this global pandemic. So the partners that we have, and for any operator, the vendors that they're working with, it's very, very important for them to understand, you know, what is coming next, what kinds of flexibility the platform can offer to the operators. Can they change something, let's say, in a minute, in a second, with one click, or is that going to take, let's say, a month, 2, or a year? So these are questions that I think are very, very important, and each and every single operator, before starting a business or even transitioning to online, these are some of the questions that they need to get answers to. And again, from that perspective and from my experience at Digitain, one of the core values and, you know, principles that we're trying to sort of build the products around is, you know, we want to make sure that our products are flexible, and that's key to the success that we've had so far and we're going to have in the future as well. You need to make scalable products, because it's not how many customers you can or how many operators you can support today. It's also about how you're going to scale up tomorrow and what kind of estimations you have. So all of these are really, you know, if we just go down the line, that all of this contributes to your strategy at the end of the day. And when we say strategy, to me, it's not just the product strategy, you know, it's also the company's strategy, and it doesn't touch just the technology. It touches also, you know, the organizational structure of the company. Are they really, you know, able to go online? You know, just the best example today, we're having this webinar, you know, from different types, from different, you know, parts of the world, and, you know, we talk about work from home. So all of these are things that needs to be considered. But from the platform and product perspective, necessarily, I think it's very, very important to have the abundance of different functionalities, and also the, you know, the flexibility. Flexibility is key. It doesn't matter if we talk about the organizational structure or the product itself or the technologies that we're using, because especially if you go to, you know, those products which are meant to be integrated to other platforms. For example, take Sportsbook. So if you know, an operator needs to integrate even Digitain Sportsbook into a different third-party platform. So again, you need to you know, make your product and design your product in a way that is, you know, that gives the possibility and the flexibility for the operators to take that product and just, you know, have an easy integration or transition, you know, as a customer or as a partner for you. So I think, you know, flexibility, just to answer, Peter, your question again, is at the core of what we just discussed.
Just come back, a quick question. A lot of people worry about if you're coming from maybe a non-sports betting retail environment, or maybe more of a casino or a bingo or something. Some people get worried about sportsbook and the volatility, and you can see that through a lot of third-party management of sportsbooks from in terms of provision. How important is risk management, do you think, in terms of making a potential operator feel at ease?
Yeah, I think, Peter, that's a very good question. I mean, when we talk about sportsbook, definitely we talk about the trading teams and the risk management. And we talk about these teams actually work with a number of different tools that they're using for their trading and risk management purposes. So I think, you know, choosing a vendor that can actually supply with these tools, which are used in risk management, and actually that can do the risk management for them, I think it's crucial, because you can't really start your own sportsbook business and, you know, with the risk management doing on your side as well. So that's a lot of risk, and that's a lot of resources and investment. You know, we have more than 700 traders within Digitain. And these people are working day and night to support and service the sportsbook. Same goes for the risk managers who are working for sportsbook. So it's it's a combination of the expertise that we have and we've built up throughout the years, and it's also the tools that we are using. And these tools are proprietary tools built by the company itself. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about not even Digitain, whoever the vendor is, but it's very, very important that the operator gets a really nice package of sportsbook, which comes with the content. It comes with this service of risk management and trading, and it also comes with all the a number of different features and functionalities that I talked about. So it's all nicely packaged and delivered to the operator, because those are things that they need to think about. But once you go online, there's so many other things that you have to consider. So you don't really want to go into the details of product-specific risk management tools that you need to have or things that you need to take care of. All of these can be done on the vendor side. And that's one of the things that, again, we as Digitain, as a company and as a sportsbook provider, we're doing that.
Thanks very much, Edmund. Heike, just going to the product for a moment. Obviously, sportsbook and casino and live casino are pretty much staples when you're going online. Some emerging sports and some emerging products were very important recently during lockdown. What would you be looking to include in a platform? What would you, if you were looking to take a platform, is there additional products that you would look to make sure were included?
Yes, thank you, Peter. I think that we have a range of products that are also very important when you integrate to sportsbook. In these terms, of course, each company has to have skill games as a product, because it's like a brand for every company. And in terms of this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of casinos went online, and in terms of poker, this affected for poker a lot. Many areas of gaming were affected, such as sports betting, skill games, but poker is a good example, because poker tables throughout all the land-based casinos were closed, and poker players and all the recreational players were not able to play live poker, and all of them migrated to online poker rooms, which caused like enormous increase in prize pools and tournaments and traffic. And we as Digitain, we do offer to our partners two platforms, poker platforms, one of which you can create your own network or you can be as a single operator, and the other one is the world's biggest and the best poker room. So offering poker, backgammon, or any other popular games in a specific region or country is a big advantage for the casino business. As most of the players play skill games or fast games during the sports betting, in between they do betting, and we in Digitain, as the EGR 2020 Best Skill Games Supplier, know what importance have skill games in conversion and, of the traffic from skill games to casino betting and vice versa. Also, non-professional skill games players are that are playing like in tournaments and winning big money. They usually convert this money into casino betting, which leads to increase of the traffic and GGR. So these days, online tournament prize pools for different skill games reach like many millions of dollars, which can lead, of course, to the huge wins for players, which will increase the revenue for the companies. And aside from the skill games, I would like to notice that we also have a very popular fast games now in Digitain, and these are games where skill is basically not needed, and but the excitement is much higher for the players. Digitain brand game, for example, is the Rocketon, which is a game of fun and risk. Players just place a bet before the rocket launches, and then they decide when to cash out. We also have another fast game which is called Crash, and we just made an update on this game, and for the last 1 month, the increase of total players we had was 400%. Yes, I mean.
Thanks for that. I just want to go on to another subject. While we're still talking about product, esports is a very interesting area, not one I totally understand myself. Obviously, there's something we launched, and it's been very popular in this period, certainly the start of lockdown. Edmund, what have we learned about esports as an emerging product?
Yeah, Peter, actually, again, a very good question, because once we went into lockdown in March this year, earlier this year, so what we found out is that there was increased interest on electronic leagues and different types of electronic sports, not not even the traditional and the most famous ones that we had before. So what we did, actually, we started. So this is a game we're talking about, when this kind of things can happen, and you start shifting your focus from one area to the other. And again, this goes back to being flexible. So we started the integrations of a number of different esports, and making that available for our sportsbook. And actually, throughout a couple of months that we started doing that, we saw the increase of traffic on those kinds of events that were offered, as part of sportsbook. In starting March, April, May, those 3 months, different types of traditional sports were just going down, and they were not available through sportsbook. So you could see that people were really interested in this, alternative sports betting options. And of course, eSport was, a great solution to this. And what we did, we also relaunched, we tried to come up with a different, view, and we sort of packaged it differently for the customers. And, we offered a dedicated esports web page where the customers could feel, the drive of esports, and, they could have a more, so to say, pleasant time while, betting on sports. So that was, I think, it was a really great experience. And again, but I have to highlight, you can't really, the vendors and the companies like Digitain, if they're not set up for this, they can't really make these moves from one area to another really quickly, because this does require certain organizational structure, certain investment, and all of these things needs to be considered, and they need to be considered upfront, and they need to be part of your strategy. Again, for us, this was really easy to do, and very fast to, the go-to-market time was just minimum. So I think, yes, that has been tremendous success during this time, and it's still at that rate. So our partners are still interested in esports, and the ones that we're getting. So we're trying to, it's still on the table, so to say. So we're still working and trying to make the content richer, and analyze the feedback that we're getting from our partners and customers, to see what is needed to add to the content.
For the people watching who might be interested, have you learned anything about demographics? I suppose it would be younger, but what we've seen, any evidence?
Okay, if I just jump in there, because Hayek and Edmund are doing a great job of selling our product for me. I mean, they know they could come and work in my department. I think in terms of like demographic, I don't want to sound like the grumpy old git on the panel, but lockdown happened. It was unfortunate, and it might happen again. It depends. I think, where I live, I'm in tier 3 restrictions, whatever that means. I don't even understand. But coming back to the point, I think, look, esports was there and thereabouts. Lockdown put a focus on it. Not everyone was interested in the Belarus second division, I don't know, AVB, I can't even name the teams, or Ukrainian table tennis, which a point we haven't touched on is integrity. And I think that goes to player responsibility. And also this Ukrainian table tennis that was the godsend for many sports books is now being investigated for possible match fixing or irregularities in the game. I think what was interesting about esports is it's brought a different demographic. If you look at player profiles. I think, from panels I've chaired, a lot of people talk about the sportsbook punter, the casino punter, and the crossover. And I think virtual sports was there before lockdown. It was a good product. If you've ever heard Martin at Golden Race talk about the millions of bets that he does in Africa every day, he knows that product better than me. But what I'm saying there is what these products have done with the renewed focus, I won't call them new products, has actually made the ability to maybe look at some sportsbook or casino players in a different way and cross-sell across the two, which is what every operator wants to do. They want to, going back to 2010, when we put embedded mini games or blackjack and roulette and slots alongside a sportsbook. This has been happening for ages and years, but I think, Edmund makes a good point about the platform provider needs to have the flexibility to deliver that. But on top of that, there's another point which Heike mentioned about the different kind of skill games that you can produce and the different kind of fast games you produce, and they have to resonate with your player. If they don't resonate with the player, there's pointless putting them on your site. And I think you work with another organisation in promoting an article that our esteemed Deputy CEO Feliciana put out today about localization. Now, again, that might be teaching people to suck eggs, but if I'm trying to launch a game in the UK or France or Spain that has no relevance, I mean, I spend a lot of time in Armenia, I like it, but the culture is obviously different to the UK. So you have to understand your player wherever you're going. And I think you need to find a platform provider or solution provider that can meet where you're looking to target. And I think it's probably an obvious thing to say, and forgive me for speaking obviously, but if we're talking about preparing to go online, you need to be aware of these things. And when we talk about how you can do that, obviously there's the platform which is on the screen. And from the 43 deals we've done since 1st of March, nearly 50% of those have been API deals. Now, from a sales guy, from my point of view, I love that, because those guys have already got a platform. They've already got content, normally casino content, and they're looking to add a sports book. So again, I don't mean to be derogatory to anyone. I'm not dealing with guys in their bedrooms who've got a great idea to aspire to own a gaming site that looks like Bet365. I aspired to play for Tottenham when I was 13. It didn't happen, but I reevaluated and I've ended up on this webinar with you guys. It's understanding your aspiration and where you want to get to and what's the best way to do it. Like, if you're an affiliate looking to try and launch your own site, go with white label. We can give you a website under our license, but your marketing is your strength. So again, it comes down to product fit. But coming back to your questions, and I'm going on about esports, it wasn't to me a new product, forgive me for being grumpy, but what it did was highlight to us a different demographic of player that we may be able to engage in different verticals.
Yeah, thanks for that. You touched on localization there, and I think, and we've obviously talked about it, and it's very easy to make an assumption about what will fit and what will port over from one market to another. Just an anecdote you reminded me there of when I worked in Brazil. We were building a horse racing service, legal one, with a race course down there, and we had the site designed. Some examples of sites, and then we had some focus groups, and there was a British site, a British web design company building it. And one of the look and feels was all samba girls, Rio Carnival colours, and we showed it to a fairly sophisticated betting group in Sao Paulo, and they hated it. They thought it was patronising. We thought this was good. It was Brazilian colours, it was samba colours, it was Rio. Very patronising. Some Sao Paulo people and Rio not necessarily get on. They see one sort of different to the other, and it's very easy to think this is what this market needs, and get it wrong. And it could be as simple as look and feel. It could be content. It could be the standard of customer service, the importance of social media. All these things have to be taken into account when you're driving your strategy. And research and data is important.
And I think also, like, I don't want to get legal letters here, and I'm going to put this carefully. At the end of the day, one of the biggest deals that's been done in the last 18 months in gaming was between an operator and a platform provider. Now, if that platform was fantastic, and there's no perfect platform out there, I'm not saying anyone's platform is perfect. If there was, we wouldn't be in business. But if an operator buys the platform, it's so they can control what they need. No, sometimes that happens. People get into the market first, and as a sales guy, I always want to be in the market first, because once you've got someone tied into a contract, it's easier to adapt from that. But the point I'm trying to make is that there's no perfect platform. You can't work on assumptions, and even with the biggest deal that we've seen in the last 18 months, I would suggest that that deal was driven by the desire from the operator to control their own platform and develop it themselves. Now, they've got the money to do that. But if that platform was perfect, they wouldn't have need to buy it.
No, and again, speed to market, they partnered first. They then learned more about their business and decided to, like a lot of successful, to own their own technology. But there's a sort of stepping stone, and cost is one of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Going on to the next subject, really, in terms of the sort of the benefits. We've talked about some of the costs and the challenges and the things you have to think about. But in terms of benefits of a multi-channel approach, having an omni-channel business across mobile, web, and retail, and in some cases SMS and other mobile sort of forms. What would you say were the benefits? Edmund, have you got a view on those from a platform provider's perspective?
Yeah, again, I mean, having a multi-channel approach and a product portfolio, I think it's not just important. I think it's imperative today, because if you look at the statistics, even the regional statistics, of course the numbers differ, but you have 75% of mobile users in one region, 60% in another, maybe 50 in some other places, and much less in other countries. So still, these numbers, themselves, they speak and they say that while in one country you might need to pay a lot more attention to your mobile solution, in another country the desktop can be, the web version can be equally important, and in the third one it's maybe the land-based business is more popular. So if we're trying to, again, this all comes down to your strategy. But if you are operating, or if you would like to operate in a number of different areas and to get customers from a number of different areas and regions, this really means for the product itself, for the product of the company, it really means that you need to have, you need to pay attention to these multiple channels, and you need to make sure that your product really fits within these channels. And again, if we go back to, as Simon said, you have sportsbook product, for example, again. And if you are providing that as an API solution to the partners, this is extended to the mobile version, to the web version, and then on top of that, if the operator is interested, they can go into the mobile native applications. They can also get this retail solution based, for example, in the case of sportsbook, on the sportsbook platform. So there are a number of different variations, and if depending which region you're going to, you have to keep this in mind, because again, in one region, mobile is very important, and it's not, we say mobile, but also it's very, very important to understand the specifications and the number of, I should say, probably product KPIs, so to say, that you have to keep in mind, because regions differ in different regions. The internet speed is different, the browsers that are used are different, the devices that are popular are also different. So all of these, really comes down, to the different specifications of your product, and the flexibility that you can offer, be it sportsbook or gaming or even casino content, how you're able to cater this to the end user. Are you able to provide it through web and mobile and retail and any other, or you mentioned USSD SMS betting, which is also a popular option for the African market. So all of these things are, really, really important. But again, you have to ask the question, where you want to operate from the operator side, and from the vendor side, you have to really understand where you want to go. And if it's Africa, if it's Latin America, it's Asia, then again you have to ask these questions. You have to get the answers to these questions, and then you have to derive your product strategy and understand what sort of gaps you have and what you need to work on and what needs to come next. And also you have to stay up with the technology advances, because these kind of things change really, really fast, and you have to stay competitive, and at the same time you have to stay compatible with all of these devices and changes in technology. So when we talk about omni-channel, it's good, it's great, but there is a lot of work involved, and there is a lot of information that you need to digest and stay up to date with.
So again, come back to strategy, knowing your market, knowing your competitors.
Yeah, I mean, if
Knowing
Peter, I mean, you made a good point about Sao Paulo and Rio not getting on, and Edmund's, talked about Africa. I mean, I think Edmund will know that I've stressed him out so much in the last year, talking about a product for Ghana against a product from Nigeria. We're not, when you look at continents and regions, you have to even drill further down than that. What we offer in Nigeria doesn't work in Ghana in certain spaces, etc. So again, it comes down to, and when I say KYC, I don't mean like your player ID. It's actually the market and the region that and that is really difficult to understand which provider you could work with, because I'll be honest, like there's no provider that's got global dominance against all regions. So you have to understand and actually drill further down to not just Africa. I can't remember what our colleague Hamo says about Africa. It's the biggest continent with the most amount of countries. If you compare Tunisia to Nigeria, or Ivory Coast to Cameroon, Ghana likes virtual dogs, Nigeria doesn't. These are, but what you have to have as a supplier is the ability to interlink those very quickly, and that's what I said about in the UI and UX, and I think that's something we should also look at. You need to be able to, in Armenia, the sports are very, football's a global sport. I get that, but if you look at, pin up and bingo boom, there's a lot of focus on the ice hockey and the sports that are in Russia. But if you come to the UK, that you can't focus as much on those. But your sports book or your casino needs to have a certain amount of, again, and Edmund's on the call this time as I mention it, Digiflix, AI-driven capability to understand and do stuff automatically. Again, I don't want to say AI is this great new thing. Mr. Green was doing it in 2010 with an AI-driven lobby, but it's how we advance. And I think we have that discussion a lot, Peter, about innovation v invention. And I think that when you look at flexibility, it's how user-friendly your sportsbook or casino is, both for you as the operator and for your end user.
Given Heike, a question for Heike here on the sort of multi-channel or multi-product, in terms of multi-products and user experience we talked about. How important is that in your end of the games and the skill games and poker across channels? Is that something you've had feedback that is important, Heike, from your customers?
It is, yes, Peter, because I do think, and our statistics show that, and experience shows that people usually play the skill games in between all the things they are doing, like betting and playing casino, and mostly this kind of products are as a brand for every company. So we do have a lot of poker players on our platforms, and these people are usually also converting to other games such as other skill games, and backgammon is one of those skill games that we usually offer to our players. And I do think that skill games are something that every company should have in terms of being well represented on the markets, and this way they just bring more customers and more players to the company.
Excellent. If we can move on to the next slide, which is about what other things are important. We've talked about platform, we've talked about product. In terms of setting up a business, we've talked about strategy also. But also we've got things like people, and here costs, timescales, structure. I would also add things like business intelligence. How important are these elements, do you think, Simon, when you start off a new business or look to expand your online business?
I think, just touching on what you said about omnichannel, it's to me it's about serving the customer in whatever way you interact with them, web, retail, mobile, tablet, in the same way. But I think any business everyone wants to be live yesterday. Everyone wants everything yesterday because everyone thinks that whatever we're going to do. And I was on a call with Edmund the other day when one of our biggest partners demanded something without a business case, but we delivered it because they're a big partner, but there was no real revenue benefit that we could do. So that comes down to customer service. I think any business, operator, supplier is only as good as the people that you hire. And there's, in my view, there's a limited pool of talented people in gaming, and certainly on the supplier side that you can go into. You know me, Peter. I always say everyone needs to be the CEO of their own desk and take their own responsibility for what they need to deliver. To me, that's key. Be that Edmund and his team, be that the head of casino at Bet365. Everyone needs to look at their own segment, and Hike's talked about it and how he's grown. The skill games and the poker and the fast games that we've got. Everyone has to take responsibility to deliver on what they want to do, and that comes down to more than people. It comes down to culture. Cost. When we talk about costs, I always say to the sales team, everyone wants a pair of Gucci shoes or a Gucci wallet, but they need to be prepared to pay for that. And I think sometimes when you're starting off, you can't afford Gucci and you can't get Gucci, but you have to understand where you can be to get what you want. Structure. Again, that comes down to where you are. There's some very successful casino platforms that have looking to take on our sportsbook API. There's people in their bedrooms, as I joke, that are looking to start their own business, and the suppliers can work for that. But I think you have to have realism and you have to have the right people.
In terms of people, I always thought when I was more operational, that recruitment was one of the most important jobs I had. Did you find that, Hike, in your team, how important is team spirit, getting the right recruitment, training and development? Is that something you look for? I mean, I would look for some evidence of that in any operator. I want flexibility, but I want depth of experience and potential, I think. Hike, do you feel that's an important element?
Of course it is, because I mean, if you do not know how to play skill games, let's say, you cannot manage them well, and you cannot treat your customers well. So I do think that every employee of the company should understand the product well, and he has to think, sometimes has to think as a player to treat the customers the way they want to see, the way they want to feel while playing those games. And in terms of the spirit in the company, it is as well important, because if you don't have the goals that you want to achieve in certain products, I mean, the customers feel that, and they definitely can see how you work, and they appreciate when you appreciate them, and you can really treat them well only when you understand their thoughts and their needs and what they want to see from you. So if you as a company give to the customer whatever you feel is right, and the customers don't feel it's right, then you will not have a successful business, I think.
Go back a bit. It occurs to me that one of the biggest, if not obstacles, maybe one of the scariest elements of going online is marketing. If you're coming from an established business, you've got marketing strategy, which will probably to some extent be the traditional above the line stuff, or below above the line brand and below the line stuff. But digital marketing is maybe unfamiliar to some people. What should a platform supplier do to help potential customers or clients get over that issue? Is there something we can help them with? Is there information or tools that we supply? Maybe Edmund, you have a view on this?
Yeah, Peter, I mean, there are a number of different tools that can be provided by the platform whenever it comes to, marketing. Even the simplest things, such as, different, whenever you log into a website, there's a landing page, and the way it's controlled and the flexibility that the system provides, to the operator to control the website, the banner sections and things like this, even the information flow, how it's all organized. And the ease of setting up all of these promotional materials, I think that's very, very important. On a number of different websites you've probably seen, doesn't matter if it's casino, gaming, sportsbook, or just a mix of everything. But on the website you have these different promotional pages where you sort of showcase all of the different types of bonuses that you have in the system. And I think that's very important. It's available everywhere. I'm not saying this is something new in the market, but I think the way the ease of setting up all of this in the system for the operator without much headache, I think that's what's very important. And if we go to mobile and even native applications, again, I mean, we're talking about native applications, then push notifications is very, very important, because that's also a way of keeping customers engaged. It's also a way of informing your customers of anything that is coming up next or any big promotion that you are planning. So this is a way of reaching out to people, and I think it's not just there are traditional ways of doing this. Of course, there's always the email communication. Social media is great today, but if you have these tools built into your platform and you can give access to these tools for your operators, then I think it's going to be great, and it's going to be very, very time efficient for these people to to manage their online business. And again, I'm looking at this from one side of things, and mostly from like product perspective, but maybe there is more to this. I don't know, Simon, if you have any opinion on that.
Just before Simon, so in terms of modules that should be associated with the platform, what would you be minimum be looking for? I'm thinking, we haven't talked about responsible gambling. That's a very important subject. You definitely want to have a good support there. You want to have a good support on CRM, affiliates. Are these all modules that should be, you think, as part of a platform as a new operator?
Yeah, I mean, Edmund's nodding away. I thought he was going to jump in. I mean, I think in terms of your module, what you need, and I'm scared of them even internally as a sales guy. I hate filling in the CRM. It's not in our mentality to do that. We don't like filling in pieces of paper. We like signing contracts. But your CRM, you're only as good as your CRM, in my view. You can have a sports book, you can have a casino, you can have the best skill games, you can have the best of everything. But if you don't have a CRM, and I go back to even 2010 when I was sat in some big gaming company's office that will remain nameless even, the CRM, I remember sitting there down in Hammersmith, which may give an idea, making the head of a product sign an NDA while his wife was about to give birth to go in there and say, look how great our CRM is, to be told that Playtech had this 6 months ago. Now, that's a supplier side idiotic story, but if the CRM is not easy, it's not flexible, it doesn't matter what modules you've got in it. It's pointless. But what you do need to have is a CRM that can power your business through a unified back office for all tools to bonus across everything. When we were talking about different player profiles, if you've got someone in the casino and you have to go through and do a 5-step bonus to get them into the sports book or offer a virtual sports that's in the sports book, it's just not user friendly. So to my point of view, the CRM and the way that you manage the modules, the agent system, the affiliate system, you might not need an agent system, but if you go into Nigeria, forget it, you need an agent system. It all needs to be there and can be activated nice and easily. And I know one of the things that I've driven within Digitain, which I know the guys are working on, is a back office with lots of drop-down menus that if you're going into that regulated market, everything fits by selecting that for that website. So it has to be easy and it has to be user-friendly. Just popping back to your point on recruitment, Peter, to me, it's the hardest thing in the world. Like, we've taken the sales team up to 13. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back and say we've done all right with the guys that we've added, because I look for personality. I look for solution-driven guys. As a head of sales, the worst thing is, Simon, I want a discount. Why? Oh, they do want a discount. Don't give me that. Tell me that you want a discount because they like pink fluffy elephants. I don't care. But at least come to me with something that we can discuss and work on. So hiring people is the toughest thing. And, I don't want to touch on the current situation that's going on, but I can say, and I say this hand on heart, the guys that I work with in Armenia, with what they're going through at the moment, it shows that we've got something right, because they're managing to work through some bloody difficult circumstances and continue to deliver. And Edmund hasn't managed to shout at me in the last 2 weeks, although I've been stressing him out about Opera Mini for Africa. So it all comes down to the people and the CRM, in my view.
unmute myself. Yeah, thanks for that. It's very, very true. The one last area I'll talk about is business intelligence. I think one thing being online gives you probably more detail and more depth than offline is the amount of data. It's all about data, and you should be making data-driven decisions. Business intelligence, analytics. Is that something that should be part of the platform? Is that sort of another plugin you get from a third party? What would you recommend? Probably Edmund might be closer to this one.
Yeah, Peter, I think that really depends. I mean, there is a certain amount of information that you must have in the platform, and there are different types of reporting that it's just a must that you have to have it in the platform. As Simon said, I mean, as an operator, you want to log in somewhere and you want to have all of this at hand. With just a click here and a click there, you just get the information that you need. Of course, if we're looking at at an extended period of time, like an information for the last 1 year, 2 years, and you want to look at the trend, something went up or down, or you want to find some different correlations between the products and different behaviors or insights from players. This is information that can be found from data warehouse or any third-party integration that you might have to provide this to you. I mean, it really depends, but at the core, we need to understand that the platform cannot just be without any sort of analytical tool. There needs to be something. You need to be able to look at basic reports, at basic data. Doesn't matter if it's financial data, player information, or some other insights. That needs to be there. I think that's very, very important, because there are decisions that you make as you go, and these decisions may be based on a week's data, on a month's data, or on in some cases, especially for strategic decisions, you might look at, let's say, the last 12 months, 24 months since the COVID started, for example, since the lockdown. Like, there are things that you constantly look at. But in other cases, as I said, there are different solutions out there. You might have integrations with some of this. You might have your own data warehouse, and you might build the user interface, to be able to look at all of these numbers and to look at the, different reports out there. So this comes down to the, a number of different solutions that you can offer as a provider, and also as an operator, to the needs. So what you really need to look at. From our side as Digitain, I mean, and from the product perspective, it's really very, very important, because we want to get all of this insight from the data to be able to make accurate decisions, so to say, especially for the product usage, for the market fit, and with the new launches that we have. It doesn't matter if it's a small feature or just a new functionality. We want to check how it behaves in the market. We want to see what kind of feedback we're getting from the players. And all of this information, of course, it's locked, it's available in our systems, and there are different ways to retrieve this information. For short-term period, of course, that's the platform and that's the tool that you're using. That these at some point can become available to the partners as well, depending on what kind of information we're talking about. But at other circumstances, you might need these kind of tools to be able to look at a lot more information, a lot more data. But of course, I mean, without doubt, data is very, very important, and as you said, it's at the core of making informed decisions.
Just lastly, then, it occurred to me that one of the things we haven't talked about, and I suppose if we're giving advice based on lots of mistakes and lots of experience, it's talking to the customers. We haven't talked about that, and obviously we have hard data from the sources we just discussed. But with soft data in terms of customers' feedback, and somebody wise once said to me, if you're not talking to customers yourself, you should be talking to someone who is, and allowing that to inform your strategy as well. And that, again, there's a lot of assumptions, a lot of people in business who don't bet, who don't have experience of it. I think you're probably closer to, in terms of Digitain, in terms of actually, because you're also in charge of a B2C business that we run, as well as the B2B platform. What do you do to get customer feedback to help influence your products, or how you go about your operating that business?
Well, that is one of the most important parts of the business, I think. We have a data analyst, we have a person who is responsible for the customers' feedback in our department, and for monthly, we're collecting all the data for our players, their thoughts on our products, how would they improve those products, and how would they what would they change in the products, any kind of promotions they would like to see, and we're trying to solve all the problems our customers have. Indeed, we are a department who develops the games, but at the same time we're trying to receive all this kind of feedback from our players to make the product really for them, as they want to see. And I totally agree with you when you say that you have to talk to someone who is talking to the customers, and you have to sometimes think as the customer. So basically, my background is as a poker player, so I do know what this people feel and what they want, and that's why we really try to be in contact with all of our skill games, fast games players, and receive the feedback, and what is the most important, to implement that feedback in our products. That's how we try to really get a perfect product that we want to have.
Perfect, lovely. Thank you. Any last thoughts before we end this? Simon, you look like you're itching to say something.
I'm always itching, I'm a salesperson, I never shut up. I mean, what I would say is, I've said this to you lately, Peter, after that 60-slide presentation I did with loads of statistics in it. I think what's the quote, there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. You can have all the data in the world, but at the end of the day, it comes down to experiencing and how you understand and use that data. And I think that's where AI is going to become more important. I think, we made a very good point at the end here that Hike's made. As B2B suppliers, there's always a focus on B2C operators, and sometimes we don't go to that next level of looking at the people that the B2C operators are supplying. And I think that's, if there's been a big change in the 18 months I've been with Digitain, we've looked at the supplying to the B2C operators, but then, as Hike said, we've gone to a step further more and engaged with the end customers of these B2C suppliers to understand what their end customer wants. Because just because an operator wants something, it doesn't mean their customer wants it. So I think that's actually quite a nice point, a nice denouement to bring this to a close from my point of view, to not just make assumption and understand that your customer's customer as part of this.
We'll draw it closer. We haven't left too much time, maybe 5 minutes or so for questions before we finish. So we'll close there and hand over to see if there's any questions that have been asked by the audience.
Lovely. Thanks so much, guys, for handing back over. Yeah, we've not got much time, as I've just popped in the chat for everyone, but we can ask a few quick things before we depart for today. So I think one thing that's just like an interesting note to sort of touch on that did come up through the Q&A portal at some point is just like a nice concise picture of what the areas that operators are most frequently getting wrong when moving to digital operations are. If there's one particular thing that they should be thinking about, they're not doing at the moment. Does anyone in particular want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, I think as the guy who's on the front line who speaks with these guys in the first instance as the operators, I touched on it earlier, there's an assumption that Bet365 website works because of the way Bet365 website looks, not the fact that it's got great tools behind it to drive customers. So I think the biggest mistakes that we see is there's aspirations to be operators without understanding the market. There is, how do I put this? Operators don't come to us with an understanding of what they want, really. They just say that I want this because someone else has it without understanding the need. It's a basic sales process. Back in 2005, when I started selling, I was taught about spin selling, which is situation, problem, inhibitor, and need. I don't actually think a lot of people that come to platforms understand the need that they're trying to fill to build a website to fulfill that need. There's been a lot of panic with COVID, but I think unless you understand the need in the market that you fill, then that's what you need to do as a first instance. So I think operators or prospective operators don't understand the need that they're trying to fill or the customer need they're trying to meet.
I think from my perspective and my experience is different, but again, it's a similar thing. It's strategy. It's people not thinking about that enough. Any wind is a fair wind if you don't mind where you're going. But in order to have an idea where you go to, you have to have a strategic view, understand the environment you're in, understand the politics, the technology available or unavailable, the economics, the equity in the area, the political situation, regulatory situation. You need to understand all the things. You need to know where your competitors are. You need to have a view where you want to position yourself versus your competitors or alongside your competitors, who you're going to compete against, who you're not going to compete against, what you're going to do, how you're going to win, and what you're not going to do is as important as what you're going to do. So you have to decide that, because there's nothing worse than death by 1,000 initiatives. And that can happen, and you've been bombarded by distracting ideas. You have to have a strategy that you can then compare all your actions against, your product decisions, your marketing decisions, your people decisions, etc. But you have to have a North Star, wherever that might change, but no strategy lasts until the first bullet is fired. But you have to be constantly looking at that and have a North Star. And again, I say to judge decisions against. Otherwise, you can be distracted easily in this business. You could be bombarded by opportunities to spend money on spurious marketing ideas, on spurious product ideas, etc., on channels and platforms and verticals. So you got to be clear and what will win, how you're going to win in that area, and what you're not going to do. That's my thoughts anyway. Any
Perfect,
other
thank
questions?
you so much. Yeah, I think sort of as a follow-on from that, another one we get asked often has sort of come up today as well, is about, obviously it's hard to strategize and forecast what might happen at the moment once COVID ends, whether that shift back to land-based is going to happen, whether those new players that come across with you to an online offering are going to stick there, or whether they're going to sort of go back to in-person. What do you guys have in terms of, ideas around this, strategies that people can implement to keep the business in both areas? Just general thoughts, I suppose.
I'd say that it's an having multi-channel is an actual opportunity to build a brand. I think people worry about cannibalizing and people going offline if they get in the habit, but they're consuming your brand across more channels. You've got them 24/7, 365. You potentially get more share of wallet from customers if you go online. You bring more different demographics in, you've got a bigger geographical reach. So I think there's more opportunities than threats. But obviously, there's ways to do to make sure you're not losing traffic to your offline network. You can have like deposits and withdrawals in the casino or the betting shops from an online account perspective. You can run cross promotions, which I've seen work in casinos in Mexico and places like South America, where by spending money online you get credits offline. There's lots of creative ideas. Again, you need a good CRM system, and if you've got a CRM system covering the whole of your business, including your offline, suddenly you're very powerful. It's a very powerful tool. So it needs obviously some thinking about and some technology and some marketing CRM skills and capability. Any other thoughts on guys on that one?
No, I agree with what you're saying, Peter, and I think that I don't want to be negative about the UK, but I think we're going to see a lot of shop closures, and I think that most of the operators in the UK have both online and retail presence are looking to do it. But I think retail is going to struggle post-COVID. We don't know when shops are going to open fully, limited times, how many people you can have in the shop. Social distancing, as nonsense as I may find it or not, is going to be around for at least 6 months to a year. So there is an opportunity, and I hate to use the word opportunity in relation to COVID, especially with the second wave coming, for operators to maybe have learnt the lesson of, okay, retail's going to struggle, let's focus on our online. And I think I've chaired some panels with some really interesting stuff that Per from Fortuna Group told me how they're actually managing to have their shops open, but as you said, using those shops to build their online presence and grow their online business. I think both will be around, but I think with everything, you know, as you say, the winds of change blow. Retail will always be here. It may just be in a different guise for, you know, for the foreseeable future. But you still need to engage with that plan.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for those thoughts, guys. We are running out of time now, so unfortunately we're going to have to leave that Q&A here for today. But I wanted to say a big thank you for a really interesting discussion earlier. I think a lot of people's potential questions were answered throughout, which is always a benefit. So thank you to our audience for joining us today. It's been great having you here. Today's webinar has been recorded and will be available to listen to on demand shortly on igamingbusiness.com, where you can rewatch it and share with your colleagues. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you all soon. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.